Welcome to the Census Records program on genealogy at Comstock Public Library. This should be a great program with lots of information. I'm really looking forward to hearing from Sarah. I've been in some of her presentations and it's just fabulous and you will learn so much. So I'm glad everybody could make it. And also, just before we finish up, I will put a link in the chat because we do ask for your feedback. So that'll be great. And also, if you have questions, you can ask them during, or if you feel more comfortable, you can type them in the chat. And if Sarah's busy doing something, I can always jump in and ask for her. So take it away, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that was a really lovely introduction. I think
Oh,
that was one of my nicest yet. Thank you.
you're
And
welcome.
Don, lots of information. So I hope it's good and everybody enjoys it. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Sarah Gutman. I am a professional genealogist. I am the family tree climber, hence the little squirrel on my shirt. That is not a cat, which my mother-in-law insists that it is. It is a squirrel holding a shaky leaf. And I'm also a genealogist for the big genealogy firm Legacy Tree. And I give presentations all over the Northeast. And my first time I ever gave a presentation was with Kumswag, and I live right in Sound Beach. So this is my home library. So it's nice to be home and seeing everybody here. So tonight we're going to be talking about the census record, and it's a snapshot of the family through time. And I kind of think of a census record, if anybody has Christmas ornaments, my mom always gets Christmas ornaments, and they have our family, and they're by year. And a lot of times they don't change very much, but my dad, my mom, me, my brother, my two sisters. But over time, we've noticed, and we started adding the dogs, of course. We started noticing that the ornaments change and the names are changing. And I have two kids. When I got married, my brother got married and then divorced and then married again. The names start changing, and you start to see people. If you think about it, I kind of think of like the census record a little bit like that. You're getting to see the family every 10 years, and think about your own families and how much they've changed in 10 years, from the actual members who are there, the occupations that you are involved in. Um, Maybe if you came from another country, if you've become a citizen, there's a lot of information that you can get in the census records. So we're going to start diving into that today. Some of the things that we'll talk about are why census records are important to genealogists, um, some of the mistakes that are often seen in census records, the evolution of the census records. And we're going to follow this family, the Fragettis, which is my great grandmother's family, my great great grandfather. We're going to follow the family for 40, 50 years, and kind of get a sense of the information that's being seen in the census. And then what I really want to show you too is extracting clues from the census and using that as jumping off points to go find some other information. Okay. We'll talk about the 1890 census and how to try to fill in that 20-year gap. And if you can't find your ancestors in the census, what are some things that you can do to help find them? Okay, let's see here. I just got the two screens going. I just got this, so I'm hitting buttons. So if I go backwards or forwards, I apologize. So the census records, for the government's purpose, is they're collecting information on the Americans. They're looking for representation in local governments, on a federal government. They're providing aid. We started taking census records in this country in 1790. And the census, the federal census, has been taken every 10 years since then. Now, I sometimes get people that come to me and they say, I can't find my family after the 1940s. They kind of just disappear. I can't find them in any other census after the 1940s. Well, that's good, because that doesn't mean you have any like secret government clearance that you can dip into the census records after that. Census records are released after 72 years. So we're going to be seeing the 1950 census in what year is this? Next year in 2022.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, it's exciting. And if you ever want to see genealogists totally nerd out, go to a genealogist convention the year of the census being released. I'll tell you this at the end, you can go to Roots Tech, which is the big genealogy conference. It's going to be hosted all online this year. It's usually in Salt Lake City. I get a chance to work at that. But anyway, I was there, I guess, 2 years ago when they released the England census, and people were going crazy over it. So it's a silly thing, but people get really excited about the census records because they have a lot of great information in there. There's also other types of censuses that are being taken. There's state censuses. The last one that we had in New York that was taken was in 1925. That was the last one that was taken. The end. So you're not going to get any more. Don't wait for any releases. There's nothing coming else. Sometimes there's police censuses, and we'll talk about that more when we get to the 1890 census. There's also agriculture censuses, which is good if you have family who were farmers. They will give you a census of their crops, their animals, and you can kind of get a sense of what they were selling. And there's also what's called the mortality census. The mortality census was put out at the year of the census, and it lists everybody who died the year that the census was taken. So if your ancestor died in 1900, you will find them on a mortality census. Sometimes that ancestor would have already been counted in the census. Sometimes they would have been after the census. So if there's a question, you can check that. And you can find, which I should say, which is really important, if you're looking for census records, the easiest and best way to get them for free is on familysearch.org. It's always totally free. That's familysearch.org. It is run by the Mormon Church. The Mormon Church, and I'm not saying this in a negative way or anything, I'm actually saying in a very positive way, they have a monopoly on genealogy records. They have done an absolutely phenomenal job of collecting records worldwide and compiling them in Salt Lake City and making them available to the general public. Ancestry is the paid version of Family Search. And what was really exciting is in 2020, while everything was going on, the Family Search building, they were taking the millions of microfilm there, and they were putting them online and making it available to the general public. Right now it's image only because people are indexing it, but all the records that are available in Salt Lake City are going to be coming to a internet near you. So you'll be able to see that for free. So that's great. But anyway, you can go on to Family Search, and later I'll show you how to do it if we have some time, or Ancestry. And you can access CumSwog's as a patron. You can access CumSwog's Ancestry database and look at it for free also and see them there. So tonight we're going to really focus on the federal census and really kind of focus on that. So one of the big things that really freaks people out is I saw my family's name in the census and it's spelt differently. My family used to spell their name this way. Well, the really important thing to know is the census records are only as accurate as the person providing that information. So if I had a census person come to my door, I was really hoping my 3 dogs didn't start barking when I did that. They come to my door and my 6-year-old answers it. And, back in earlier times, it was very common to just leave your 6-year-old at home and you just go out and do whatever you need to do. So they come, they say, little boy, where's your family from? How old is your dad? My dad's 65. How old's your mom? She's 21. Great. Okay. How do you spell your name? They're telling you however they think their name is spelled. The names, maybe he calls his sister Anaphilopicus, and her name is Anne. They're going to write that. So it's whatever is being told to the census taker, that is what's they're writing. Now it has to be, people are told that they need to answer to the best of their knowledge, the most accurate information, but it's still a little bit hard. Sometimes neighbors would answer and they'll say, hey, people next door, what year do you think they came over from Italy? And I don't know, 1906. They just kind of guess at it. So keep that in mind, that the person who is providing the information may or may not know. I always say you usually want to have the mother of the house, because she's going to remember when her kids were born, answer that information. So another thing that you'll often see is that birthdays don't line up. And this is especially true for women, because women don't like to tell their age. So sometimes women will be younger, sometimes they'll be older. I've seen censuses where one woman just really stays at 36 years old, and like she is, I don't know if she's drinking from the fountain of youth or what, but she hasn't aged in 30 years. She just stays at that age because that's the age she wants to be. So you also want to check if somebody, if they are telling the truth, say in one census, they're 39. The next census, this is my math skills showing up, by the way. The next time they're 50. After that, they are 59. Okay. And you're like, why is this person not automatically jumping up 10 years? Well, if you check on the top of a census, and I'll show you where that is, you check at what is called the enumeration date. And the enumeration date is when that census taker came to the house to get information. So if a census record taker had come to my house on Friday and he asked me how old my kids were, I would have told him that they are 4 and 6. Well, my son just had a birthday on Saturday, and now he's 5 and 6. So it's going to depend on when that date is taken. And you can also look at, because not all censuses are taken on, June 1st or whatever. Some are in April, some are September, whatever. You can kind of look at the censuses, figure out when they're taken, and almost kind of guess what month that person's birthday falls in. So that's a little piece of a puzzle you can kind of play around with. Another reason why the census record might be wrong is, consider if this person is illiterate. They might just not read. They don't speak English well. They could be speaking with a very heavy accent. You can also sometimes find the same person twice on a census. Now, I'll tell you about the Frigetti family later on, but two of the people we're not going to talk about is there's Anthony Frigetti, okay, who was the brother of Lorenzo, who we will learn about. But in one of the censuses, Lorenzo is living comfortably in his house with his family. At the same time, within a few days later, I'll say same time, he's also in jail. So I was able to find the court records, and sure enough, Anthony was in jail during the time period the census was taken, but his wife, I guess, covered for him and say, oh yeah, he lives here, and gave his information. So you can find a person twice. Also in the Frigetti family, which I'll show you, is the mother of Lorenzo went back and forth between living with different sons. So when the census taker came to them, mom was living with one son, and then a month later, when they went to the other person, mom was living with that son. So mom's showing up twice with both children in the censuses. So keep that in mind. Somebody might have double residency. There's also possibilities that there's a transcription error from the actual census to what's being transcribed when you see like a record on Ancestry or Family Search. They'll say like it's a typewritten thing of this is what's in this record. So always look at the actual image of the census, because you might know that, hey, this E is actually an I and the person writing it is wrong. So just check that out. Now, also too, one of the things is I talked about women's ages not lining up in the census record. If you see here, I have Thomas Wills in the case of the Marys. So one of my ancestors, Thomas Wills, had 3 wives, all by the name of Mary, which I guess was helpful because he didn't have to, change anything in his house. The Christmas stocking got to say the same. But if you look at the census record, Mary is going up in age, she's going down in age, and like by a lot. One time, her parents are from this country. Another time they're in Pennsylvania. You're kind of like, all right, like she's a little crazy. Who's answering this census for her? Well, the fact is, I did a little more research and I could find the death dates of all these other Marys and the marriage certificate between Thomas and the other Marys. So make sure you're kind of doing some other research outside of the census. It's a clue. It's not what's considered a primary source. It's a secondary source. But it's a great secondary source. So let's talk about censuses and how they got started. So the first census we have in this country is in 1790, and it's the US federal census. And it's only given the name of the head of households, and you have to be white, a free white person. Now in the census records, and this is so annoying because on the top of this page, this is the full view of a census record on here. Okay. It's not even telling you what these numbers are aligning with. Okay. It's just kind of names and numbers. You have to go all the way back into the beginning of the collection and find, okay, this column over here is going to give me the free males 16 and over. The next one is males under 18. The next line is free white women. And the next line is the number of free persons, number of slaves. Oh, sorry, that's supposed to be two separate columns there. And that's kind of annoying. So, and this is all handwritten. And a lot of times people get really frustrated with this because it is frustrating, but there is a way to track a family using what these are called tick marks. Okay. We'll talk about that later. We're going to really kind of focus on the 1850 census and beyond to really kind of help you out, get information, because that's where you're going to get the most information. So fast forward a little bit, and we're going to jump to the 1830 US federal census. Now here, my other family, all this stuff has my family on it. So in this family, we have the Will family. If you remember a few moments ago, I was just talking about Thomas Wills. He's over here, the one who's going to have three Marys. And this is in 1830, and he's living by himself. And I'm going to be able to trace him because in the next census, he's going to add a wife, and then I think in a child. So you kind of be able to figure out this way. Now, his father is John Will up here. And I'm able to follow this family backwards because at one point, Thomas Will's little check mark in the 1820 census is going to be under the John Wills family. But again, this is more like an advanced level. But you can kind of see that, okay, this is where the family is coming together. So the categories in 1830, the number of free white males and females under 5, then you have 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and then it goes up in 10-year intervals. What's really confusing about this is when they say something like you have a 5 to 10, and then you have another column for a 10 to 15. So you don't really know where that 10-year-old is going. I guess it's kind of up to the whim of the census taker. They also are going to put the number of people who are blind, the number of whites who are foreign born and not naturalized. That's going to be one of the tick marks on there. And then there's a thing also here for the number of slaves and colored people. So that's very similar to the 1820 census and also the 1840 census. When we hop up to the 1850 census, we're going to see for the first time, everybody in the house is going to get named, as long as you're white. If you're Black, you are not named, unfortunately. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But in the 1850 census, we're going to see the name of people, their age, their gender, their color, W for white, M for mulatto, so a mix between Black and white, and B for Black. Your profession, the place of birth, If you can read and write, if you are, oh, I wrote dead. What's wrong with me? They don't have dead people on there. Deaf, dumb, blind, insane, idiotic, a pauper, or a convict. Now, it's really, I just learned this recently. And it's really important to know that these categories of insane, of deaf, they're again are up to the individual reporting them. So, somebody knocks on the door, is grandpa deaf? Yeah,
Here.
yeah, exactly. So, and it depends on the day. Is your mother crazy? I'm sure my kids' our answers would change, based on if I'm screaming at them to clean up their their clothes, Same thing with my husband. So it really depends on the person's answer. Sometimes you can look at asylums and see, okay, was there a record of this person in an asylum? But in more cases than not, it's just the person saying, oh, yeah, they can't see anything. They're blind. Click. I was actually very surprised because one of my ancestors lost his eye in the 1800s. And I know this because every photo of him, he's missing his eye. But he was never marked as being blind. But I don't know. I just kind of thought that would have registered, but I guess not. In the 1860 census, they add the line of the relationship to the head of household. Because before you would often just guess that, okay, here's this family here, by their ages, you can kind of figure out who's married to who. This must be the husband or the wife, or you could also get a brother and sister living together. So you kind of got to figure that out too. So in the 1860 census, we finally get a relationship to the head of household. In the 1870s, anybody want to guess why the 1870 census is important? And there's a clue on here, the picture I put.
Your profession? I'm not sure.
Nope, it's the first time that Blacks are named in the census. So if you have family members who were African Americans, especially African American slaves, this is the very first time they are going to be named by name in a census.
Wow.
So that's really big for the research, and it's often referred to as the 18. If you ever hear people talk about the 1870 brick wall, that has to do with African American research. Now, before that, they also had what was called the slave schedules, which is another type of census record. And unfortunately, we kept everything segregated back then. Even our censuses and our record collections were in completely separate books than they had on there. Now, another group that was also, anybody want to guess the other group that was also separate from I guess you want to call them your European whites?
The Indians?
Yeah, the Indians. The Native Americans were also kept in their own separate census records. They were kept in census records for their tribes on reservations and also in the general public. So they weren't first included in the general public until the 1900s or 1910s. I'm sorry, it's one of those years. So those are really things that are significant. So let's talk about the Fragettis. So this is the Fragetti family. I'm going to tell you a little story about them. So this is my great grandma. People say I look like her, and I really don't think that's a compliment. She was a 4 foot tall and 4 foot wide lady, and I got to know her. She was funny, but not somebody you really want to look like. So that's her right here, and her husband, Arthur Gentile.
Oh, how do I see it? I don't know if I could see it.
Can you see this? Is everyone seeing my screen right here? It says following the Fragettis.
I can't see it.
Anybody else not able to see that screen?
I can see the screen, but it's really small.
Oh, really?
Should I push another button or something?
Hold on a second. You're seeing it like as a slideshow presentation, right?
No, I'm not seeing it like that. I'm
Second.
seeing 4
This
people.
could be your device. I'm on a laptop and I'm seeing it just as a regular presentation. So I'm thinking it could be your device, maybe as a tablet or something.
I'm on my iPhone.
I can see it fine on my computer.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you go on your
laptop and you change the view to standard, it makes it much bigger.
Oh, I have my laptop set up with my genealogy stuff, something else.
Well, it's okay. I'm just telling you about pictures.
Okay.
Right now. So it's nothing really exciting. I'm just hoping I don't look like this woman, basically. So over here is the guy that we're going to be following. His name is Lorenzo Frigetti. Okay. Lorenzo Frigetti, he's up here. He also owned and I look at like this meat in the background. It's disgusting. Or what is left of it. He owned a butcher shop. Okay. So this is Lorenzo Frigetti, originally from New York City in the area that is now the Lincoln Tunnel. This is his son. This is my my great uncle Albert, who was killed in World War II. This is Lorenzo's wife, Nancy, with some of the children and the grandchildren. So we're going to be looking at them in the census record. Now, a little backstory about this, and I always have to tailor. This is the first time doing this presentation, and I always have to make sure none of my actual family members are on here because I had to swear that I wouldn't tell them this. Lorenzo's, and this is something that we found out through the census record. Lorenzo's father, Vincenzo, came over to this country, and he decided, I guess his wife was taking too long to come to America with his 7 children. So he decided he was going to just go and get another wife in America. So he had like his little American wife. And his wife from America came over here, and she found out, I guess, really wasn't happy. So based on the census records, it's actually kind of humorous now looking at it because they go back and forth from declaring each other dead. Those in the census record, and they're not. And it's a whole big story. But the reason I've chose the 1890, we're going to start the family off in the 1900s in the U.S. federal census here. At the time, the Frigettis, again, they're living right by where the Lincoln Tunnel is. And in the 1900 census, we're going to start getting some really great information. We get the month and the year of birth. This is the only census where you're going to actually find the month of the birth of your ancestors. You're going to get their marital status. This question always makes me sad. For mothers, how many children did they have, and how many of them were currently living at the time that the census was taken? The place of birth, the parents' place of birth. What year did people immigrate at? How many years had they been in America, which can be different from the years that they immigrated because they can leave and come back. The race, the naturalization status, saying if they're a American or an alien. Their occupation, can they read, can they write, do they speak English, do they rent or own? So let's kind of dive in. So the first thing, this is a 1900 census. If you take a peek up here, I'm going to show you the different parts of the census. Right here, you're going to see what when it was enumerated by. When was the census taken? And it was enumerated, the census was taken on June 16th, 1900 by this guy, Frank Fusco. Now, each individual census taker is given a numeration district, okay? And your enumeration district, which is right up here, oops, hold on, let me get my mouse, I'm pointing to the wrong screen. Here we go. Your enumeration district is up here. This one is 124. Okay, that's going to change every census record because it's going to change on how it's going to be divided up at the time and how many census takers they're going to have. Okay, so each census taker, this is according to the census taker's number. It's in New York, or in Manhattan. Over here on the side, I had to cut it off just because, for viewing sake, it'll say the name of the street. So up and down this line, you'll usually see the name of the street that the person lived in. So let's take a look here. So in this household, again, you're going to see all the different categories that you have up here. So we have Lorenzo. He is the head. We see he's born August 1868. He's 31. He's married. They have been married for 4 years. His wife only has one child. They're both from Italy, and he immigrated in 1889, and you'll notice that she came in 1894. And the number of years in the United States, 11 and 6. Now, anybody want to tell me, based on this record, did they marry in America or did they marry over in Italy? And how do you know that?
I can't see it. I can't see the record.
Oh, okay.
I'm having a problem with my setup. Should I try to get you on the computer?
Yeah, might as well. I'm not going anywhere. I'll let you in.
How do I get in on the computer though? I've never. Oh,
Go to your Zoom link on the email and you could do it. And this is also being recorded. So you can, if you want to just, if you didn't want to fuss around with it, you can just watch it later.
all right. Let me see if I can get in. I think I have to go in. I don't really go on my email too much on the computer. 1 second. Let me put you.
So anybody else want to take a guess at how I know that they were married in America and they're not married in Italy based on the census record?
Because they've only been married 4 years.
Yes, and it doesn't align with how long they've been in the country for. Good job. Perfect. We have over here too that he's a coat presser. He's only months not employed.
I do.
He can read, he cannot write, and he can speak English. Now, a thing to know, and I'm going to show you this in a second, I'm going to go backwards, is the Frigetti family, pretty much all their children and him changed their spelling of their last name. I don't know if they just didn't think it was important, whatever. My great grandma spelt it with 2 G's, which seems to be the common one. Sometimes it would spell with 1 G. I'll show you some of the different spellings that they have there. But keep in mind that they don't speak. He can't write, so he's not writing his name. I guess it just really wasn't that important back then. So the spelling can change. And then if you look down here, notice the names are going to change as they become more Americanized, their first names. Nunziata is his wife. When she's born, April 1879. Again, I said that over there. And they have Vincenzo. Now, based on this record, I can figure out his passenger list. He came to America in 1889. And I could guess at the year that he was married, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and look for his passenger list, which I have right here. Using that information, I was able to go onto Ancestry, and I was able to do a search for passenger lists. And I was able to find Lorenzo's passenger list with his mother and his brother using that date, okay? Now, I was also able to go to Family Search and find this marriage record, okay, for Lorenzo and Nancy. And this marriage record, you get on Family Search. I also found it at the National Archives, is for when they were married in 1894 in St. Raphael's Church, a church that's no longer there. And if you're looking for a marriage record or a birth or a death record, you can request them directly. If you know the exact town, you can request it directly from the town or the county based on the jurisdiction. Or if you really don't know the specific town, you can also request it at the state level. But it's about $60 cheaper if you can request it at the town level, a marriage record or birth or death, whatever. So those were some of the clues I was able to get from that census record. Now I had skipped over this slide, so I'm just going to pop back in. These are some of the names that the Frigettis are going to be going under. If you could see, this is the different spellings. G's are going for Z's, and I didn't even put the ones that start with the ending of the A. This is just what I'm seeing from 1900 to 1940. There is not one consistent spelling in this set of records. So that's really important to know. So let's go to the 1910 census. Okay, so 1910 census. This one is happening April 30th, whereas the other one was happening in June, if you remember. Okay. We are now in enumeration district 1208. That's a big difference from the one before because Frank Fusco is no longer doing it. And now here we have the Frigetti family. What name is Lorenzo going by here? And what name is Annunziata going by?
Lawrence?
Yeah, Lawrence. He's going to try out some American names. That one's not really going to stick with him, but he's going to be Lawrence this year. And Nancy. And we also have a whole bunch of kids that kind of hopped on. So we have Vincent. It says Melinda. That's really not her name. It should be Millie. Leo, Frederick, Anna, Joseph, William, Peter. And we're also going to see here that he is now working as a grocer. Grocer is what later on he's going to open up his own grocery shop with that disgusting chicken bones that were hanging from the window that nobody's going to eat. Now, this is an important question. It is, do you rent or own your house? Okay. That's over here. Sorry if it's a little bit blurry. But if you see over here, this says an R. That means that they're renting where they live. I'm not even going to call it a house because it was a tenement on Mulberry Street. They're renting it. If they had owned that house, you could then go and look at land records to try to get the deed of the land records, which are the oldest records that we have in America. And you can get these. Sometimes they have them online. Other times you have to call the courthouse of the area that you're researching in and ask them for the land records. But that's another thing you can get off of a census record. So again, here I'm noticing all these kids that they were born, and I can now go and I can look for their birth certificates. So this is, oops, hold on. Oh, actually, I'm going to pop over one more second. One of the things that does say here, this is important, is if this person had citizenship, so they become an American citizen. And it says right here, NA. NA means naturalized. They are, in fact, a citizen. If it said AL, that means they're an alien. They're not naturalized. PA means that they have submitted their first papers, their declaration of intent, and that they are intending to become citizens. So Lorenzo, or Lawrence as he wants to be known right now, he in fact is an American citizen, and he became a citizen in 1900. And his wife became a citizen in 1893. Good for her. You know, she really wanted to become a citizen. My grandma always said she was very, very proud of that fact. So I was able to go and find Lorenzo's naturalization papers. And that clue again was the NA in the naturalization. Now, another thing that you can notice is that Lorenzo was an alien in 1900 and he was naturalized by 1910. So you know that that naturalization is going to be taking place within that 10-year time span that you can look for. And you can request naturalization records directly from the United States. I always get this wrong. The United States Citizen, I'm not even going to say it. Go to that website, the abbreviations, and the National Archives. So those are where you can request citizen records directly. You can also contact the local courts and see what they have. And an interesting thing that is on this record is the last name Frigetta. Frigetta is the name that the family went by when they were in Italy. They threw an I on the end once they got to America. That was pretty consistent. But you're going to see usually in these naturalization records, the actual spelling of the surname. And this is what's considered an earlier naturalization record, so you're not getting that much information on it. But once people naturalize after 1906, you really start getting some really good stuff on there. So got naturalization records. I start looking for birth records for the kids. This is the birth certificate of my great-grandma, Grandma Annie. So I was able to get this. I got this first in the, where did I get this? The archives, the National Archives in New York City, but now this is available on the free website familysearch.org. So you can do a search that way and you can get it's a little hints. So now we are in the 1920s. Now the family has moved to Yonkers, where they will stay. They're living in Yonkers in Westchester. And here is the family right here. We have Lorenzo, Nancy, Vincent, Leonard, Fred, Anna, Joseph, William, and Pete. And I'm saying these names because you're going to notice they're going to be changing. And then if I hadn't done it, I would have thought that was the end of the family. But I clicked the next page and I was able to find that there's also Ernest and Catherine. Okay. And living next door are the Milanos, Gregory and Mildred. Now, interestingly, I had the land record, because if you look here, I think he's owning his house, and I might have cut that off. Lorenzo's going to own this house, and he bought this house from Gregory Milano. Gregory Milano actually married Lorenzo's oldest daughter, Millie. So this is actually still now part of the Fragetti family. And after he, I guess, sold him the house, he started to live there. So really, this is the whole family. So you take a look at this. It's giving you the names, giving you the industries that they're working at. Now, the reason I also say that it's important to know the occupation is because sometimes that can really help you out. My husband on his family has a lot of like those common names that, you know, everybody has, but one of his ancestors was a sausage maker, and that's not a common profession. So I was able to research and do a search also by sausage maker and follow this guy through the census records, which is pretty cool. So now over here, and this is kind of like more like, if you ever look at one of those things, those pictures that they say, what's the difference between these two pictures, you know, and circle the differences. So you look at the 1920 census, and now we're looking at the 1930 census. So what's changed? Okay. We're still living in the same house. Okay. And over here, we have Lorenzo, Nancy, Leonard, Frederick, Joseph, Peter, Ernest, Catherine, Albert. And then next door, we have Arthur, Anna, and Nancy. Nancy's my 91-year-old grandmother who's still alive. So Anna is also, they're all living in this same house. If you look at the number right here, okay, they're all living on 7 Horatio. But in that house, it was a duplex. And Arthur was considered the head of his household. They lived upstairs. So you have the two families right here. And something you might not notice here is that William is missing. And if you want to think why would somebody be missing from a census? Well, a lot of times people are missing from a census because they went and got married. If you notice here, Mildred Milano, they moved. They're not there anymore. And that's totally fine. They're married. You know, they went off. Vincent's not here anymore. He got married. So, you know, those are reasonable things. But there's one person in here who is standing out that he should be too young to be missing. And that is William Fragetti.
He died.
He did die, yes. William Fragetti. He died in a sledding accident.
Oh, wow.
And it's really hard to find him, but I did find him in his death index in Yonkers, and it's listed under the wrong name with an I. Okay, so that's why it's not really showing up in a lot of these records. And sometimes, you know, nobody else in that family is fitting his description. It's not like he went under another name. So, and again, if you do a little bit more research, we find that, well, I'll show you more about him in a minute because it kind of pairs up with Lorenzo. I found his great. So now we have the 1940 census, and a very important figure here is missing. Who's missing from the 1940 census?
Parents.
The dad, okay, Lorenzo. He's missing from the 1940 census because now we have Nancy, and Nancy's a widow. And we only have Leo, Fred, Joseph, Kay, Albert, and we still have my grandma, my great grandma living upstairs. Oh, I didn't know Kay was a beautician. I'm like, that's cute. So you have their occupations over here too. Now, if you take a look, so okay, so Lorenzo's gone. This is a search from, I actually put this on the website. This is a search from Find a Grave. Find a Grave is a really great free site that you can put information and find people's tombstones. Sometimes they have obituaries. It's all up to the individual who put that information online. It can be edited by anybody, so it's a clue. It's not a, it's not set in stone, if you will. You have to do your own research. But anyway, because I know Lorenzo died between 1930 and 1940, I can now look for his information on his death. So I was able to find an obituary with him. An obituary is my favorite source of information. Because you'll see Lorenzo Fragetti, he's 67, a retired butcher, died this morning at his home at 7 Horatio Street. So you know where he's born. Where he died. He's born in Salerno, Italy. On his death, gives his birthday, gives the names of his parents, tells when he came to this country, who his wife is, who his surviving children were, how many grandkids he has, and also the church that he attended, because you can find some sacramental records then from his children there. And again, this is the tombstone here. We have Lorenzo, then later his wife Nancy, she's going to die in 54. William who disappeared, there's his son. And then you're going to have Ernest later, who's going to, he also died between the 1930s and 1940s. But Ernest was actually, he was married. He had moved out of the house. He had just passed away from leukemia, but he's buried in that family plot right there. And also next there is my grandma's infant sisters who passed away right into the plot next to it. So now, wait a minute. If you remember, Lorenzo was here in the 1890s, as it did say in his papers that he came before that. So he should be in the 1890 census. So why didn't I bother looking to see if there was an 1890 census? Anybody have any ideas?
Fire.
Dun, dun, dun. Fire. Okay. The 1890 census was destroyed in a fire, and then they came in with their fire hoses and really just soaked it and just destroyed it. Now, such a shame. That fire happened in 1921 in Washington, D.C. Now, not all census records are burned. Anybody have any idea of a town whose census records from 1890 are available for viewing? What's that?
I know a town that
Yonkers.
made them up.
Is Yonkers isn't available, is it?
I don't know. I know that's where your family's from.
Okay, I was gonna say. I was like, no, I don't think it
No,
is.
mine was, I found a census record from 1890 in South Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
But is that the only one?
No, the town of Brookhaven is available.
Okay, yeah, Brookhaven's
So
available.
all you people from
All for the
Brookhaven,
towns, the individual towns, right?
Terrytown is available in Westchester, but there's very few. But Brookhaven, for some reason, we got spared. Now there was also in other areas, a lot of like the New Jersey censuses have gotten destroyed over the years too.
But some of the towns made them up again.
Great. Here we go. Ready? Well, they didn't do it on purpose. So the 1890 census, they didn't do, a lot of people were not happy with the response that they got. So they went out and they decided, I got to do my own census. And New York was one of those places. New York City had a census. So there's some ways to fill in the 20-year gap. And 20 years is a really big time. Think about all the stuff that happens within 20 years. Just somebody can be born, get married, move out of the house. You wouldn't even know they existed. Okay. Um, people pass away, what have you. There's a lot of stuff that happens in 20 years. So there's a few ways you can fill the 20-year gap. In New York, we had the 1892 New York police census, where the police officers actually went door to door and they took their census. And actually, as I had mentioned previously, Lorenzo's father was a bit of a jerk, and we were able to find and I say we because me and another genealogist worked, and we were able to find them in the 1892 police census, and it really gave a nice profile of the family before they kind of decided to split
When
up.
did that fire happen?
In 1921.
Okay.
There's also the 1890 veteran schedule, which are the people who had fought in the Civil War. So if your ancestors were in the Civil War, you can find them in the veteran schedule. These are available on Family Search. If you go right to do like the card catalog on Ancestry, you can find that also if you type in these. There's also city directories, tax records, which I really don't like. I don't really like them at all, actually. I find them confusing and boring. But city directors are pretty cool. It's basically your pages, from years back, if you will. And they actually have, if you go to Ancestry and you go into the search bar of Ancestry, click on card catalog. And in the card catalog, you can type in the 1890 census substitute, and it's going to automatically type in all the different censuses that have been used to fill in the gaps for the missing 1890 census. So that's a good way of getting it. So now you might be like, all right, I've tried everything, found my family who I can, but there are just some years or a year that I just can't find my family. I know they're in this country, but they just seem to disappear. So what do you do about that? Because that can definitely happen, that you just get lost in the census. Now, it is possible that people didn't participate in the census. It was rare, but it did happen that people didn't, in fact, participate in the census. I think they said it's like 0.37% of every census people don't participate in. So a few ways you can do to find your family. When you're on a database, you could try wildcard searches. Okay, so if you're not sure of a letter, you can put the asterisks in there. There's a whole bunch. If you Google wildcard searches, just Google wildcard searches, and they'll show you different characters that you can put in to get different results based on that. And that has to do with anything with Google. You can also put, like, say if I knew Gutman, my last name, Gut something. I just put a question mark after that and open it up. Because if I just put in a search, if I just put gut, I'm only going to be searching gut. But if I'm putting gut question mark, I'm opening up the door to Gutman, Gut. I don't know what last names would go with Gutman. I personally think it's a stupid last name, but whatever. I married into it. So other things you can do is, say you're trying and you're searching in Ancestry and you're really not finding anything for your family. Well, each company, like Ancestry, even oh my goodness, Family Search, MyHeritage, Find My Past, all these genealogy companies hire out people to go through these records and to transcribe it. So somebody who worked for Ancestry could think that letters look different than the person who just transcribed the same record over at MyHeritage. So you might want to try out different databases to see if you can get your family that way. Try variations of that surname. You saw the Forgetti family, they changed their name a bunch of times. Try variations in both surnames and first names. Try nicknames sometimes, instead of James, look for Jimmy. Also, more importantly, if you go on the website behind the name, They will give you a list of, you can go either way. Say you wanted to do Joseph, you can, for what was the Italian word for Joseph? It's Giuseppe. And what's all the different types of ways you could say Joseph in Italian? What are like those little like pet names? They'll give you that. So you want to try that in the census records. Be open to age discrepancies, even if they're really big. Be open to them, but also be reasonable with them. Just remember, people may say they're from somewhere that they're not. Also, be open to the fact that boundaries change, borders change. One of my great grandfathers in different censuses, he's Austrian, he's Hungary, he's Slavic, he's Czechoslovakian. He didn't move. I mean, he was in America, he didn't go anywhere. But there was stuff going on in the world that was changing the borders of where he lived. So he's changing his nationality. So be open to that when you're doing a search. Now you can also do an image search by address. You can go into family search and you can search by an area. You know, if you did Sound Beach where I live, you're not going to take that long because Sound Beach is pretty small. If you're doing someplace like Yonkers, which is the second most populated city in New York, it's going to take you a lot longer. So there is this website, and I would definitely write this down because it's a really great help. And it's also a help with, if you're looking for passenger lists and you can't find them, it's stevemorris.org. And this guy shows you how to search. You go by the year, you scroll down to the year, and you can put in the address, like cross streets, and it'll tell you what enumeration district it was in that year. Then you can go into family search and you can go search by image, and it'll allow you to go, say, if you're looking in Yonkers, okay, and you know the enumeration district, you can click on the enumeration district, and now you can click by those images, just the images of that particular census taker. And again, you'll learn that in Steve Morris by knowing the cross streets of where that family lived, okay? So the way you look at that is, say you don't know where they are in the 1920 census, but you can find them in the 1910 census and you can find them in the 1930 census. Put those addresses into Google Maps, see what the cross streets are, bring that information over to stevemorris.org, and you should be able to find the enumeration district, and you can image search. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay, perfect. We're like right at 8 o'clock and I'm just about done. So does anybody have any questions? Confusing, concerns? I hope I didn't talk too fast.
Sarah,
Yeah.
the last census we could look at was it 1949,
1940 census.
1940.
And then next year, they're going to release the 1950 census. So that's
Okay.
exciting.
This might be a really stupid question.
That's
The
all
one
right.
census, it's probably very silly. In the one census, I can't remember which one you were going through. It was one of the earlier ones. I don't remember if it was the 1860 or not. They had for the children where they lined out with the English speaking. Was that just they made a mistake, or was there a specific reason why they were lining? They had black lines across that information.
Let's
There
see.
particular reason? It was a little later, I think.
One of the
Now, keep
earlier.
going. It wasn't that. It was after 1860 or 1910.
Okay, let's see.
When you had all the whole bunch of children. Yeah, see there, why are they all
Yeah.
lined out the English? Is it just an error, or is there a specific reason?
That's a great question.
It seems silly, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, you know what? I never even realized this, and I've looked at this like a million times.
I mean, I think it says English, right? And I'm not sure what the other parts are.
They did speak English, which is, I don't know why they did that.
Okay. Yeah, it
Maybe
just
the
seems odd.
person wasn't sure, and he was like, I don't know, I'm just gonna cross this out.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's crossed off all the way across.
Yeah, because
Yeah, the other piece too. That's why I can't see what the columns say.
whether they can read and write.
Okay.
Oh, you know what it is? They're writing
Mine's
yes,
the
that they can read and they can write, but look at the ages here.
How old are
Yeah.
they? I'm trying to read.
8. Well, I mean 8, 7. That's totally common.
Wait, you
Four,
could, well,
The 4-year-old can read and write.
I know what, you maybe 1910, they weren't writing that early. I don't
Yeah.
know. Okay.
Any other questions or anything? Or
Do you have any suggestions of ways to compile? I mean, we're trying to think because we're losing a lot of the family oral history
yes.
because unfortunately the family members are passing away. So we're trying to figure out, over the years, we've been trying to do a little here, a little there, but not intense. Trying to figure out how to compile pictures, history, all kinds of written documentation, birth records, online trees that the people have looked at and all that. Just ways of how to compile all this for the future, like my children, when I want to leave it to my kids. Easy ways to do other than having, you know, a box of this, a box of that, go online to look at this. I mean, do you have any suggestions, or is it basically a little of this and a little of that?
No, you definitely want to plant your family tree. They always say plant your family tree in your own backyard and share branches. So you want to pick a place that is your central place for putting all this information.
Okay.
Mine, I started doing this when I was using floppy disks. So I started when I was very young, and I'm 38 now. So I was using, which is now a company again, is the Family Tree Maker. Okay, the Family Tree Maker software. Family Tree Maker was bought out by Ancestry, and then Family Tree Maker in recent years has reappeared onto the scene, and it aligns really nicely with Ancestry. So if you're a person who is very cautious about having their information out there, you know, worried about some type of cloud security break, whatever.
That's not an issue.
I would recommend either way. I would recommend getting a subscription to, or even downloading the program, the Family Tree Climber. No, that's my business. Hello, it's been a long day. The Family Tree Maker. You can download me too. The Family Tree Maker, because also what that will do allows you to do is really nice charts that you can print out and put in something like a book or whatever. It also plays really nicely with Ancestry, and I really like Ancestry because only you have access to that. Whereas Family Search, they do allow you to put your information out there.
You can put pictures in Family Tree Maker also.
Yep. Yeah. If on Family Search, anyone can edit your family tree. So all your hard work that you like really put out there can get destroyed. But like the gentleman just said, you can put images, you can put documents on family. I keep wanting to say my own name, the Family Tree Maker, and get it that way too. So that's a really good start. But like, just don't, even to, you know, if you're more of a hard copy person, behind me, I have these books. I got them on Amazon. They're $9, and they're family history books. And I have one for each of my kids, just in case the internet decides to like implode one day. I have these hard copies of them.
Yeah.
And also, I like to make them up for people in my family and give them as gifts. I don't know if they actually read them or they like them. I really don't care because it's a Christmas gift and they're taking it. But that's another good way of, you know, recording it. It's just going on Amazon, buy a Family Tree Maker book and just start recording your information.
If you don't do a book though, that's what I was wondering with the digital stuff. Does it obviously gets extensive. I mean, we've done small part of the family, but we haven't extended way back yet. I mean, can you actually compile something digitally, and then when you print it, can you actually be able to see it?
Yeah.
When you get to that extent that, I mean, you have such a large, you know, amount of family members.
Yep. I have I think like 3,000 people in my tree, and like I do that kind of stuff. So
how do you print out something that big?
Well, if you wanted to print out something bigger like that, like behind me, I have I think it's a 7-generation family tree chart. There's companies that do that online.
I was going to say, okay.
Yeah,
otherwise you never see it.
Companies. You know, if you just even go on Etsy or whatever, they have that. And I'm so mad because my favorite one that I've been using for years is no more. It just one day just said, bye, all your book that you wrote and your family tree, everything is gone. So that was really sad for me.
I was going to ask how secure is that? I mean, as secure as I guess anything else.
I mean, nobody's stolen my identity yet, so.
Okay.
I guess so.
Okay. How accurate is it when you go like that? I mean, I don't mean to be insulting, but I've always wondered, like you go ancestry or something, how accurate is it? How do you know it's actually your ancestor when you start to go back? Because like with part of my family, we tried going back, but at the time, we're guessing that one of my grandmothers was born maybe in Austria-Hungary, but we don't even know what the borders were at that time, what the heck it was even called.
You have
I
to always
mean,
just assume that when you're, one of the things you want to do when you're looking at other people's tree is don't assume that they have it right. You know, again, it's a clue. You're going to have to do your own genealogy research. The more accurate your hints are on something like ancestry, you're going to be based on the information that you provide. So if
okay.
you're providing, you know, a lot of information about this person's brothers and sisters, where they lived, your hints are going to be a lot better.
Okay.
I also always, whenever I see somebody that, you know, has some really great information, I reach out to them and I say, you know, hey, really like your tree. Can you please tell me where you got these records from? Sometimes they'll say, oh, I just copied them from somebody else. I had somebody that told me that I just started this account for my son and he just likes to put random pictures of people and make up information. And I was like, wow, really glad I did not just copy all that. So, I mean, you really need to do your homework. Always assume the other person doesn't know what they're talking about.
Okay.
And what I also do too is if you go on Ancestry, you can see the person will, they say, you know, what level do you consider yourself? Are you a beginner, intermediate, advanced, professional? You know, and if somebody's a beginner, I'm not going to, you know, it's not their fault or anything, but I'm not going to put that much weight in what they have. You know, and really you need to, what you need to be able to do is to find out where their information was and then go find it yourself, and see if you can get it that way.
Okay.
Be surprised at how many people are related to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just tells everybody you won the lottery and then you'll find out who's related to you.
I'm also, well, sometimes a little concerned because part of my family went back and went for one portion of the family, they went to Italy and they were welcomed, very well welcomed. They found all kinds of records and it was great. They were treated like kings and queens. But then I always worry about, well, what if we do another portion of the family? Is there something in there that I'm going to find out that I may not want to find out? I'm not really too sure about that one. So
Yeah, it's a
you
very,
never know.
a very real thing.
Yep.
You know, and they do have like special groups set up for people. Find them on Facebook. You know, and special therapists that deal with specifically these unexpected. They're called unexpected parental events. When you're finding out your family's not your family, and it's a really big thing. They've actually stopped. They actually have made it illegal in France to do DNA testing because these commercial DNA tests have really upset so many families, because people are finding that their family is not who they thought that they were.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or comments or anything? Or
That was very good. Thank you, Sarah.
oh, well, my pleasure.
Very
I like
nice.
talking to you. And as I mentioned before, I do these one-on-ones through the library too. So if anybody has any more questions or specific research questions, or just need a little help, I think my next one's on Tuesday, so you can sign up with the library. I do them every month.
Thank you, Sarah, on behalf of Counselog. Yes, I did want to mention that you are offering the one-to-one genealogy research help, and it's amazing what you can find. And feel free to call the library. It's also mentioned in our newsletter, so we'd love to take that a step further with you if you're interested. Thank you for attending tonight's program. It was absolutely fabulous. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Welcome,
Comsawag.
Sarah. That's great.
Thank you, Comsawag Library, for offering this because my grandchildren lived here and were doing all your programs and they moved back to where they live and their library doesn't have half the stuff we do. So thank you very much for everything you do.
Oh, you're so very welcome.
Great.
I'm very happy to serve our community and help everyone out.
You do a great job.
Oh, thank you. I'm also going to ask if you can check out the chat. There's a quick little link there. We always like to know what your feedback was. So if you have the chance, it's a very short little form just asking you. We always like to know what you think. So thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Sarah. You're just such a wonderful font of information and I learn so much every time.
If you ever see me walking around the street, please say hi.
Ah.
I'll probably be wearing this. I have a few of them made up, so.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, everybody. I'll see you soon, hopefully, and talk to you later.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you.
Get out of here.